There's no such thing as sight reading. And this is the 3-note arpeggio starting on note 1 of the E-flat major scale. We're going to go 1 octave in treble clef. But if you're doing this on your own, use whatever clef you want and go as many registers as you need. Remember, don't use an arpeggio sheet. Arpeggio sheets, like scale sheets, make you worse. Visualize the staff, 5 lines and 4 spaces. Close your eyes if you need to. There's going to be a treble clef on the left with 3 flats in the key signature, B, E, and A. That's how we know we're in the key of E flat. Remember, arpeggios in root position are always line, 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 or space, 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 and they switch back and forth from lines and spaces every register. Our bottom note will be an E flat on the bottom line with a flat on the left. Next line up is the second line from the bottom G. Next line up would be the middle line B flat with a flat on the left. We complete the octave with the top space E flat. Picture it in your head. Has a flat on the left. Then coming back down, B flat is the middle line with the flat on the left. G is the second line from the bottom. And E flat is the bottom line with a flat on the left. Now the next step would be to play the arpeggio on your instrument. And when you play it, you think the names of the notes and visualize and listen to the melody. Remember, an arpeggio, like a scale, is a sight reading and an ear training exercise. You learn what does it look like so you recognize it when you see it in music. Once you recognize it, you won't have to read the notes because you've already learned how to spell it, and you can anticipate the pitches because you know what the arpeggio sounds like. Now, is that the only arpeggio in the key of E flat? Well, no. There's a whole bunch of them. Right? That's just the smallest arpeggio, the 3-note arpeggio, starting on note 1, which is our logical starting place. But there's a whole lot of other arpeggios in the key of E flat, which is why basing the arpeggio spelling on the scale degree, thinking of it as 1, 3, and 5, although that works, it's not really practical. Because, for example, if that's how you think about the smallest and most basic arpeggio, then you have to continue that same process for all the other. So a 4-note arpeggio starting in a 1 would be 1, 3, 5, 7. And a 5-note would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And a 6-note arpeggio would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. A 7-note arpeggio would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. But then we also have arpeggios starting on note 2. That's what functional harmony is. You can build an arpeggio, a chord, off of any note of the scale. So note 2 of the E flat scale is F. That's our bottom space. Now, if we're visualizing, we just stack the spaces and plug in the key signature. So if you wanted to build a 7-note arpeggio starting on note 2 in the key of E flat, F's a space, A flat's a space, C's a space, E flat's a space, G's a space, B flat's a space, D's a space. It's easy. Space, 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 space. 3 flats in the key signature. Doesn't matter what note you start on or how high you stack. Now, what if you tried to do the scale degrees? Well, a 3-note arpeggio starting on note 2 would be 2, 4, 6. 4-note would be 2, 4, 6, 8. 5-note would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 6-note would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 7-note would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And then you're going to have 5 arpeggios starting on note 3, and 5 arpeggios starting on note 4, and 5 arpeggios starting on note 5, and 5 arpeggios starting on note 6, and 5 arpeggios starting on note 7, and they all have their own set of scale degrees. If you wanted to build a 7-note arpeggio starting on note 7 of the E flat scale, that would be notes 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19. Right? You got 35 different algorithms. Now, if you wanted to visualize it, right? Note 7's D. D's a space, F's a space, A flat space, C's a space, E flat space, G's a space, and B flat space. Right? It doesn't really matter which note you start on or how high you stack. If you're visualizing and plugging in the key signature, it makes it easy. Now also, if you go through this process of visualization and spelling, you're creating a mental picture of the chord, of the arpeggio, in your mind, so that when you see this group of notes in music, you will recognize it. And as we discussed, I did a whole video about this earlier. If the arpeggio, if the chord happens to be in a different inversion or voicing, your brain will still recognize the pattern easily. And so it becomes a tool for sight reading and ear training. So if you want to learn how to read, you have to learn how to spell. And if you learn the first and most basic presentation of the skill, in this case, the 3-note chord or arpeggio, starting on one of the key, if you learn it in the most practical and efficient way possible, in the most usable way possible, then you can take that same process, that same method, and apply it to all future more advanced scales and chords within that key. My name's Mark Dooley. I've been a private music teacher for 36 years, focused on practical theory and music literacy. If you'd like to hear more, follow me. If you'd like lessons, contact me. If you can learn how to read words, you can learn how to read music.